She spent 6 months building an algorithm that saved her company $2.3 million. Her manager presented it to the board as his own work. That afternoon, he got her promotion. What she did next took everything he thought he had. Imagine spending 6 months building something from scratch. Late nights. Weekends. A system so good it saves the company $2.3 million in its first year. Now imagine walking into a boardroom and watching your manager present it as his own. And then finding out that same afternoon that he got the promotion you were promised for building it. That's what happened to Maya. The VP of Operations sent a company-wide email at 4:17 p.m. on a Thursday. Subject line, exciting leadership update. Maya read it at her desk. Her manager Richard had been promoted to Director of Data Strategy. Effective immediately. The email specifically cited his work on the supply chain optimization algorithm as the reason for the promotion. Maya had written every line of that algorithm. Richard had never opened the file. Maya had been a data analyst at the company for 4 years. She was good at her job, genuinely, measurably good. Richard was her manager. He had been in the role for 2 years. Personable, well-liked by leadership, and Maya would later describe him in a legal deposition as functionally unable to write a line of code. 8 months before the email arrived, Richard came to Maya with a challenge. The company supply chain was losing between 1 and 3 million annually through inefficiencies nobody had isolated. He wanted Maya to look at it. She spent 6 months building an algorithm that identified the inefficiencies, ranked them by cost, and generated automated reports. She worked weekends. She presented drafts to Richard. He nodded and said things like looks good and keep going and this is exactly what we need. In month 6, he asked for a full summary document. She sent it. He said he needed to run it by leadership before her formal presentation. There was no formal presentation. Richard presented it himself. The next day, the algorithm Maya built saved the company $2.3 million in its first operational year. Richard received a directorship, a 32% salary increase, and a profile in the company newsletter. Maya received an email asking if she would be willing to train the new analyst who would be taking over her responsibilities now that Richard had moved up. Maya did not respond to the email immediately. She called her sister, who was an employment attorney, and described what had happened. Her sister asked one question: "Do you have documentation that you built the algorithm?" Maya did. She had version-controlled files showing every edit she had made, time-stamped, over 6 months. She had emails to Richard with draft attachments. She had a meeting invite created by Richard titled Maya's Algorithm Review, attended only by the two of them, 2 weeks before his board presentation. Her sister said, "Save everything. All of it. Right now. Do not say anything to anyone at the company yet." Maya spent that evening exporting every file, every email, every version history. She saved it to a personal drive. She took screenshots of the company newsletter article. She documented the timeline date by date, file by file, message by message. She had spent 6 months building an algorithm. She spent one evening building a case. Here is what most people do not know about workplace credit theft. It is not just unethical. Depending on the jurisdiction and the specific circumstances, it can constitute fraud, misrepresentation, and in some cases tortious interference with economic opportunity. Richard had not just taken credit. He had taken Maya's promotion. And the law had something to say about that. 3 days after the email, Maya requested a meeting with HR. She brought a printed timeline. She brought screenshots of every relevant file and email. She was calm, prepared, and precise. The HR director listened. She took notes. She said she would look into it and get back to Maya within the week. 2 weeks passed. Maya followed up. The HR director said the matter was under review and that she should be patient. 1 month passed. Maya followed up again. The HR director said the company had reviewed the situation and determined that Richard's contributions to the project were significant and consistent with his role as team lead and that the promotion decision would stand. Maya asked for that determination in writing. The HR director said she would need to discuss that with legal. Maya thanked her, went back to her desk, and called her sister.
Maya's sister filed a formal legal complaint on her behalf 14 days later. The complaint named Richard individually. It named the company. And it included 147 pages of documentation. The HR director had asked for patience. Maya's attorney asked for discovery.
The complaint was built on 3 arguments. First, intellectual property misappropriation. The internal documentation showed Richard had represented Maya's work as his own original work in the board presentation, promotion application, and company newsletter. Second, fraudulent promotion. Richard had received a directorship based on work he had not done. Maya had been passed over for that same promotion based on the same false representation. Third, HR's written determination. When Maya had asked for the finding in writing and been told legal would need to be consulted first, her attorney noted this as evidence the company knew the determination was legally indefensible before it was issued. The company's legal team made an initial offer 6 weeks after the complaint was filed. Maya's attorney declined it. They made a second offer 8 weeks after that. The final settlement included a formal written acknowledgement that Maya had created the algorithm and the credit had been attributed incorrectly, back pay for 18 months of salary differential, a promotion to senior data architect equivalent in seniority to Richard's directorship, and a confidentiality agreement. Richard's employment was terminated as part of the settlement. He left the same week. Maya stayed in the role she had always been qualified for.
There is one detail in this story that I keep coming back to. The company newsletter article that profiled Richard's promotion was never retracted publicly. It was quietly removed from the internal website, but copies of it exist. Maya has one, framed, on her office wall, next to the letter acknowledging she built the algorithm.
Maya spoke to a journalist 2 years after the settlement. She said, "I was not angry at Richard for long. I was angry at myself for being surprised. I had watched him take small credits for small things for 2 years. I thought it was annoying. I should have understood it was practice." She also said, "The thing people get wrong about workplace credit theft is they think it is about ego. It is not. It is about money. Every time someone takes credit for your work, they are taking a fraction of your future compensation. Promotions, salary bands, references, it compounds. Over a career, it can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars." She paused. Then she said, "The documentation saved me. I did not set out to build a legal case. I just had good habits. Those habits existed because I cared about my work, but they became the case." Richard is currently listed on LinkedIn as available for new opportunities. Maya's algorithm is still running. It saved the company $4.1 million last year. Maya's attorney shared 5 things she tells every professional client. 1. Version control everything. Every document, every file, every draft. Date and timestamp are your proof of creation. 2. After every significant meeting with your manager, send a follow-up email summarizing what was discussed. This creates a paper trail your manager cannot dispute without contradicting themselves in writing. 3. If your manager asks for a summary of your work, ask who will be presenting it. In writing, even casually, the answer tells you everything. For workplace credit theft is rarely a single incident. It is almost always a pattern. If it has happened once, look back. It happened before. 5. HR works for the company, not for you. When you go to HR with a serious complaint, go with documentation already prepared. Next story. A woman and her best friend of 14 years started a business together. The business succeeded. The friendship did not survive what came next. That story is coming. Subscribe for more stories like this, because not every betrayal happens at home. Some of them happen at your desk, every single day.